What's going on, everyone? What's going on?
They love us.
Another? They do. They do.
Big
What can I say?
man.
What can I say? We,
Hello,
we,
World Wide Web.
yeah, hey, we appreciate everybody. We appreciate the internet. We appreciate our listeners, our followers, hey, and it's once again another week of Carbonate Bounty BS. So what more can we ask for, right?
And this is going to be a bunch of BS.
Oh,
Yeah.
This
definitely.
week we're bringing extra. It's this week's with extra
Extra.
BS.
Yeah, there's definitely some extra BS in this week.
Extra BS. You gotta love it.
Extra BS, but in a good way, right? In a
Right,
great
no
way. I
charge.
feel.
No
yeah.
charge. It's all
Free
free.
of charge. It is. All we ask you to do is please smash a like or leave a comment don't be a troll,
Hey,
right?
don't make us go back to giving you the business like we used to. So
Right.
I don't want to have to start doing that again.
And send
make
us a
me.
question live so we can interact with you.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
did
fun when
have,
you
yeah,
do
we
that.
had a
Come
fan
on.
couple episodes, yeah, that was very interactive with us. So we do appreciate that, and we love that feedback. But before we even dive into any of that stuff, and you guys may wonder where to find us, let's let our guy DP tell you guys where to find us at.
He's got it memorized.
Nerdcyclopedia.com, people. Your favorite website where you get all your favorite social media platforms at Nerdcyclopedia. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also on TikTok. If you are listening to us on podcasts, we're on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Play, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. Guess what? We're there. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Make sure you, like T-Mitch said, smash that subscribe button and also hit that notification button so anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. If you're watching us on Facebook, thank you as well. Join our Carbonate Bounty BS, a Star Wars group where you get all your favorite memes, all your favorite Star Wars content, anything that we're discussing about Star Wars, we are on there. And make sure you leave us some feedback too. We love getting feedback. Nerds at nerdcyclopedia.com. Make sure you drop us a line so you can let us know what you're thinking about us.
That's good work.
Well said, man. And you have it down to he has it down to a T. Yeah, he has it down to the T, so we like it. But it's funny, we always have kind of like our I guess we'll call it a prelude, right? Kind of we have obviously our group chat, and then we have our online discussions, and we have kind of like a prelude to the episode. We'll kind of dive into stuff, and it's like we get so down in rabbit hole so deep sometimes we're just like, hey, let's just start the show. We might even have to just like kind of like start filming the prelude and maybe like dropping it at some point because
For a while, guys, I like to just start. If you guys want, when we get momentum like that, I can just start and then
we'll just kind of we'll just catch
then
up.
when we reach an
4
impasse,
minutes into it. Yep,
drop the intro if you want.
Right, yeah.
It's
Then
not
we
like I
have to
can't
do
do that. I've done it before, and it works sometimes when the energy's right, but it doesn't always work like that because sometimes we're just like, hey, you guys ready to talk? And we all have our set pieces ready because we know what we want to talk about. So, I mean, if everybody's amenable to that and isn't going to start throwing F-bombs out in the middle of
family shows, we know,
maybe one
family show,
one.
Family show.
It's true. You do get one. You can drop one F-bomb and still be PG-13.
Right. Drop one.
Allowable.
Family. It's a family show, right?
It's a family show. We try to keep it. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'll try to call it earmuffs disclaimer or whatever if it gets crazy.
Now the other one, we don't have. It's not family. Not family friendly on the other show that we do on our channel. NCFS, we let him fly there. So if you want to hear the blue hour,
right.
That's
the real adult swim. I mean, I'll say since I've been here, it didn't used to be like that up until Endgame, but unfortunately, after Endgame, it's just the F word became very synonymous with what happens.
Whoa!
Look at that.
Ooh, very Sith. I like
now
it.
we can curse.
Now we can
let 'em
say
fly.
what we want.
I don't even think anybody here doesn't have a red lightsaber anymore, which is pretty crazy. So it's kind of synonymous with us.
All red.
We've all translated over.
All right. That's enough promo. But I think we are probably going to start do. I know we're going to do some NCFSs soon. We're all real excited to see Dune 2. It's coming out, second part of Dune, and I know we've all been talking about the X-Men cartoon that's going to be on Disney Plus, X-Men 97. I'm interested in seeing that. I found because after a brief survey of Wikipedia that I must have checked out for some reason on Saturday morning cartoons in like 1997, and I thought about it, and I realized the reason. And it's one of the saddest, like nerdiest things. That it's because I started private violin lessons on Saturdays when I was in 7th grade. So that's the reason I haven't seen these episodes. So I got to catch up and check out the last season.
I've realized that I'm just like Hitch. For whatever reason, I didn't finish those last couple seasons for whatever reason. So I had to go back and actually, I've never seen these episodes. So what's going on?
To be honest, I'm pretty sure that
really,
yeah, multi-talented.
Private violin lessons?
Yeah, dude. I did them for like 4 years. I was in the orchestra. We won like the West Virginia State or like some sort of thing. We had to go perform in Charleston. It was a whole thing. I used to do that.
And you're not still doing it? Like
no, I play guitar now. I don't play.
Okay, all right. So you moved up 2 strings.
Yes, I figured.
Okay,
four wasn't enough to contain the awesomeness.
Okay.
That I bring to the table. So and
you were tired of the bridge falling every time you were trying to tune your instrument, and you're like, oh, the goddamn bridge fell again. Jeez.
Yeah, you can't take the bridge off. Yeah, because it's definitely there. That pressure.
All right, sorry. I had to because I'm a nerd and I know about everything.
I didn't want to say this.
Sorry.
My mother was just I do that, and that was I guess
much like Ken. I'm a retired drummer / percussionist, so I was able to play, and I still tune timpani and go over everything, which is why I shout out my.
We got a bona fide band on here. All right,
shout out my Zildjian references back in the day of Zildjian still being the greatest cymbals in the history of percussion.
If we're bragging, and I know. See, I told you extra BS. This is I love this thing, and it's great. It's a Gretsch Electromatic. It's a hollow body. It gives me great tone. So
okay,
I got you, Kenny.
We're gonna have to do something now because, like, I have a full drum kit here with like tasty cymbals and all kind of shit. Like I even got one of these.
So we can play Sympathy for the Devil. That's great.
Yeah, and I got more cowbell. So everybody out there on the internet, this is 7 minutes and 40 seconds of your life you'll never get back.
The Star Wars community, the Star Wars community is aching to know more about who we really are. And I think it's good that we share more of our personalities because, people should know these things about us. It's been hundreds of hours. It's been hundreds of hours with us.
We are. But it ties in there. Yeah. We're well rounded. But think about it. The music, the percussionist ties right into it, right? Because I don't want to skip forward, but we get a cantina that has a live band. Wow. And this is something I'll lead towards later on in the episode as far as world building, structure, things of that nature. But yeah, we got a lot in this episode. Like I said, didn't move the fastest, but we had a lot of this episode. And what I will say is, regardless of people calling this filler, as I guess I'll give my initial review real quick. These episodes.
I think you're the only one that calls filler.
No, I'm not calling this filler. Listen, this is where I landed, right?
This is not filler. This is not filler. Filler is tech. Filler is tech. Is a Formula One race car driver. That was filler. That had nothing to do with anything.
This is not filler, but I will say, as far as progression, and even when I look back at stuff I might have called filler, I just think, and we talked about this off camera, I think they're doing such a better job of being able to tell a story at a slower pace. You know what I mean? Just because it doesn't, like me personally, I like high pace things. So maybe it has to be $1,000 an hour for me. However, as of last night, because we moved the show to the night, what did I do? I watched Rogue One. What did I started doing after Rogue One as I was dozing off? Suggested Andor. So I put it on, and I really realized at that point that, and like I said, this is something I'll tailor on towards later in the episode, towards the back end. But I just, the way people tell stories, and it was kind of like an off camera conversation we had. It's just so unique how different people tell stories different ways, and I feel that Filoni has grown since we've first seen him to now, based on the progression of this show, the characters in the show, and the pacing of the show. Even if it's not the most action packed, you're gripped. I'm riveted to the show. I wouldn't say that
as far as his animated stuff. He still needs to do a little bit more with his live action, but his animated, oh yeah.
Bro, it's like night and day. It is, man. When you see stuff, it's just, it's night and day. But
in this, a different approach combined a lot of different things that I love. Like I love mysteries, and I love when people have to get out of tough situations. And I also like when they keep getting into the situation. Like how much more could go wrong for Omega and Crosshair in this episode? It was like once they found themselves above the mud, they were all of a sudden back in. Like there wasn't a moment where they really kind of like succeeded until the end. And that's when Filoni combined another really favorite franchise of mine, Jurassic Park. Because now we have this whole like weird thing where the Empire really has nothing else to do on this planet except cage livestock. And we don't know why.
No, we do know why. They go to Pershing's thing and they're extracting DNA to try to create these like weapons or whatever remember?
Right,
yeah.
But that's not the like what they're telling the public is there's a pet
right
fine. Like, you're not allowed to have certain pets. So they're taking everyone's animals, and Batcher, who oddly is named like Batcher after Bad Batch. Like,
yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Right.
I was like, just happened to name him Batcher.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like synergy with that element, and I really liked how Omega finally gave it over to Crosshair because she knew she had come to the end of her her commando experience, and she said, okay, let's try it your way. So what is the different approach? Is the different approach no blasters, or is the different approach, well, maybe we got to use blasters? Because she was sort of on the fence between the two things. She didn't want to start killing a bunch of people, but she also knew there was an end game. I'll take that from Marvel, because there's some sort of she knew there was a goal, and she knew that what she was doing wasn't cutting it. So she had to double down. Tricky little gambler she is, and make try a different approach. So I wonder what was the different approach? What was the point of the episode? Was it blaster or no blaster? What were they trying to tell us?
Well, twofold. Well, with Omega, the whole thing about her personality is that she's very caring. She's very loyal. She's very, doesn't want anybody to get hurt or whatever. And her whole thing was, she doesn't want to get anyone to get killed or hurt or anything like that. On the other side of that, it's just thinking logical. It will bring too much attention to their situation if they start killing folks or whatever, So
killing folks is a classic way to bring attention to a situation.
It
would bring up.
Yep.
Yeah. It would bring a bunch of attention, unwanted attention, which they couldn't afford because they were they were so much in a a tense situation with them just being found out and everything, being on that planet. So they had to get in and get out and try some way to do it. I thought the whole thing with the trying to get the credits was it was an okay diversion, for what it was. It was sort of tropey, where I got to go and get these credits. And it's like, okay, you're on a planet of enemies and stuff. So somebody's going to be really shady and not hold up their end of the bargain, which we've seen at the end. Yeah, nobody's holding up. And the guy just double crossed her all the way through,
All the way through.
What did Omega really expect, for it to be happening? That she was going to get the credits and they just let her go? Yeah, right.
They were definitely telegraphing that guy was gross. The whole he's the weirdest one. Like I said this in our chat, he's the weirdest shaped dude I've ever seen.
The captain. He
looks like Gary Oldman in Slow Horses. Like that's what he looks like. He's just all bulgy and like his neck's bulgy in weird ways. Just like he looks weird. He's weirdly shaped.
The good thing about that is that they're not being discriminatory to who can be who could be in these positions and stuff.
Who can be who, you know, people of a rotund size can abuse their political office. Let's
Absolutely.
not. I know,
Totally
DP. It is a long-term trope and stereotype through history that only thin people are politically corrupt. I'm glad they're diversifying that.
And didn't that whole thing have like Han Solo, Greedo, Obi-Wan, Han Solo vibe, like bartering, and I'm gonna one up you, and guess what? You're gonna get double crossed too at some point. I mean, it had that scene where she, you know, Omega is gambling with the first, you know, alien, and then the captain comes in and move over, I'll take care of this. I mean, that was classic Star Wars to me. I mean, that's like you're given an objective and then a hurdle, and you got to like get through it somehow. And like I was saying, it was like they just kept piling it on. Every time she won, she lost. Yeah. And Crosshair,
can you love when they play the hits, don't you?
Oh, man, I love when like I feel that like the writers are speaking to me when they're doing what I think they're writing things that they think I will love. You know, that sells to me.
Yeah, it's a comfort zone to where, you know, where we're going, you know, with this episode and everything. But overall, I loved it. You know, it was it wasn't filler to me. It was just a progression of well, they can't get straight to our hero. They can't get the band back together too quickly. They gotta go somewhere. They gotta let some time pass. You know, unless this was a truncated like 6 episode, you know, series. Right. You know, they gotta let some time pass in order to see. Okay, let us be away from our heroes and everything, just so we could get a bigger feel of when they come back together. You know, so you want to get that bigger feel of people missing each other and everything. And then we seen at the end, you know, there was like, you know, that tension. You know, it was okay. That was a sort of emotional scene with the back getting with at least the 2 of them getting back with you know, Omega and everything, and then them seeing Crosshair. And I love the fact that it wasn't okay. Crosshair, yeah. Record wasn't like, you know, he wasn't like his old job.
Hesitation.
Yeah. There was so much hesitation and tension there. It's like, okay, it's Crosshair, but we know everything he's done to us up until now. So we're not just going to welcome him with open arms. And I hope the next episode, either they grill into him or do something. You know, I hope it's just not a, you know, okay, they just leave the tension on. Then the next scene is okay. Well, you know, we give you a hug and stuff. I hope it's like a back and forth between them two, because so much has happened between the first season up until now with our heroes and Crosshair. So they need to go through it in order to work it out. You know, they're getting the band back together, but they still need to talk some words.
Yeah, they have to talk about why. And Crosshair definitely has to explain why it was so easy for him to cross over.
Right.
You know,
switch loyalty.
Yeah, switch sides and cause all that.
But did he switch, or did he just, or did the side switch on him?
Did they?
Shit. Okay. I see where you're going, Still City.
I think that there's Crosshair has some complexity to him, and I think one of the great things they did by killing Tech, and you know, not that I hate Tech or anything, I really didn't dislike that character, but one of the things about we did not see a body, and it's Star Wars anyway. He's a clone already, so
I don't even know.
Like, just run it down the list, he could come back, right?
No, he's Tech. He had some kind of tech on him to survive, you know.
A parachute, for instance, or literally an airbag or something like that.
I watched that episode over, and I don't even think I'm not convinced that he's dead, but that's a whole separate.
I mean, Echo himself, you know, the Bad Batch character Echo was essentially had the same thing happen, right? Something similar. So you're right, they could come back, but there's stakes, and the thing is, like they're not unscathed from what Crosshair did. Like, he hurt them, and he actually harmed them and like destroyed their team even beyond repair because he took out Tech. I mean, that's just that's what I think that tension is all about. And you're right, it deserves to be given some space to breathe. This episode is my favorite episode of this series. I went Ken out of Ken on it, frankly. And I don't know if it's just because it reminds me of an old Legends novel, because it's a random pair. They're escaping an Imperial base. They hijack a shuttle. They're in a shady place. They're playing Sabak, however that's pronounced. Nobody explains how the game is played, which makes it, because it doesn't matter. Right? You can't get 3 suns on a flop like that. Like, no, I just don't want to have that going on.
Right? It's like,
and we get a lot of tropes. Obviously I jested about
a lot of tropes.
Obviously I jest about, the corruption and the size and all that other stuff. But this guy's obviously a man of appetites, is the way he's being portrayed. He's clearly a dangerous person who's respected and feared. He's got muscle with him. He's a mob guy that just has an office.
Right.
And that's what corruption in political power does. It's just the truth. You can hate it or not hate it. And I thought that whole scene was something I would have read in like one of the Han Solo and the Corporate Sector novels or something like that. Seems very, very believable. Plus, we know she's Force positive, right? We know she's test positive for the Force, so she should be lucky. She should, be good at sleight of hand and all that stuff. So I really like that whole scene. I loved, that guy getting dragged to his death, like by the monster.
Yeah.
And I love that when Hemlock showed up, it was obvious that guy made out by having that happen to him. Like he won that exchange for sure, because Hemlock would have done much worse stuff to him. So I thought that the way they wove this into the overall story was great. I thought it was the culmination of another really great arc. I think having Omega grow up like this and, say, okay, fine. You can't just take the easy way out every time, right? Sometimes you got to get a blaster and shoot at a bunch of people. I like that. The reunion scene here is everything I want in this show. It's earned.
Right.
It's Omega, getting back to her her father. This is, her father's pretty much like, this is like her family. And, she's like, and this is the dude brought me back. He's the one guy you never thought you'd see again that you don't want to see. Right. It's our brother, Crosshair. And I think they've given us enough in the intervening time to make that really, really effective and really hit. And it makes you not regret so much about season 2. Although I'll say it feels like this is the band I want to see playing if I'm watching the Bad Batch, right? I want to see what happens here. The missions they go on or whatever, the heist they pull, the missions they run for the rebellion, how that all fits together. I want to watch that. And it's almost sad to me that this is the last season because they didn't figure it out until they got so close to the end.
Yeah.
This is, and we talked about it. This has been kind of like a reoccurring theme with Filoni. Like we've seen it, and it's not just this; it's all his animated stuff. So I don't know, like if it's like a whole boardroom situation. I don't know how these. I mean, DP would probably be the closest, I guess, to a creator that would. And you obviously maybe have never sat in a boardroom and maybe pitch your comic or idea to somebody, but like it's almost like he thinks that they tell him that, oh, I have 5 seasons, and then this ends up being 3. Like he goes into this so, I don't want to say naive, but it's almost like he's told he has more. Yeah, right. He has this broader idea that he can like get 5 seasons, and they're really like, okay, cool. We've done 2. The budget, you know what? We have 3. I need you to cut out the last 2 and like deliver now. And I feel like this is the culmination of like you taking the extra 2 seasons and putting the best bits of all that into one, because every last season of his shows are like dramatically different from everything else, right? It's almost like he compresses so much data.
I can speak to that. So as a creator, you want to go into a project with the broadest thing possible, unless you're just have a budget planned and everything. Okay, it's just this, and this, and that's it. But if something like this is just starting out in the beginning, okay, well, we don't know how many seasons it's going to go. Let's just tell our story, and wherever we land and everything. Then the ratings start coming back in. Then feedback start coming back in. And then, then changes in corporate start happening. And then they come back and say, okay, well, you only got so much time, or you got so much budget. Now you got to start reeling some of those ideas and everything back in, so it'll fit the corporate mandate or whatever. The 3 seasons. Okay, you got one more season to tell your story, so let's reel this back in. Whatever you had planned, start chopping and getting everything. You're lucky we even giving you another season. Considering how you left off.
Considering
that's always been a Star Wars. That's always been a thing with Star Wars. That's how it started. Like George went to Fox with this huge story.
Epic. Right.
Yeah. This. I mean, he came to them with everything that we're talking about now. Let's just say it. George came to Fox with this entire story, and they said, we want just this,
right.
And we're only going to do this, and you're only going to get this, and that's how it started, with these little epic stories that needed to be told in chunks, and every now and again we'll give you another one. So there was Star Wars, then there was A New Hope, A New Hope, then Empire did phenomenal, and they were like, okay, let's see a little bit more. So it's always like this, like, reveal. We want to see
for all the Star Wars folks. When did we find out that Star Wars, the original, was just episode 4?
It was before the release of episode 5. So they re-released Star Wars as Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope in like 1978 or 9 in preparation for the sequel coming out. That's when. So it's been since then.
Yeah.
How much of a shock was that to you guys, finding out, okay, well, it's 3 more parts before this?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was when I found out, like in 95, that's when rumors started to come out that there was going to be this whole prequel. Like, before that was huge. That was like, oh my God, all this other stuff. And that's when we learned that, George actually had this all projected already. And now we're seeing it. And, I remember starting to see the rumors about Phantom Menace. And then there was this,
crazy.
Attack of the Clones. There was like all this other stuff. It was like, wow, all this stuff is gonna come out, and there's all these new stories. And I'll be honest, there was also books at this time you could read. You could read backstories. I had the comics because they were easier for me because I'm not that smart. So, comic books are like,
hey,
come on, leave my buddy Ken alone.
So there were books, and if you wanted to write a book, like I could have written a book, but I had to send the whole story in to LucasArts for them to approve, to make sure it fit into the timeline. Because that's something that went awry with the whole story, is any one of us could have written a story in the Star Wars universe, but it had to fit. And I think at one point, whoever was controlling that kind of maybe took the chains off and just let people write whatever they wanted. So you had all these little offshoots of like stories about Vader. You had stories about Luke. You had Leia. You had Leia universe. You had Lando universe, and that was all kind of protected, but I don't think it was controlled in the best way.
Yeah, the old stuff, like the old books, and that was all that there was in the universe, was the movies and the books. So they would cover like stuff that happened after Return of the Jedi. So things that are being overwritten now were the earliest things that were written at all. So what's interesting is that the stuff that they've gone over now with like Mandalorian, for instance, and all the Luke Skywalker stuff happening there, overwrites all the stuff that they released right after, like, right in the 80s and the early 90s, like the Thrawn trilogy and stuff. So when the movies came out in like 97, it was crazy because there was Star Wars on the big screen, and I was born 5 months after the release of Jedi, right? So I'm that old. And when I remember Phantom Menace, like, very clear, Lee, like who I went to with that, like which movie theater it was, where I sat, all the thoughts I had about it, what I thought they do. Like I remember all that stuff. So that experience was really, really, really incredible. So, knowing that there was going to be other content and how they were producing it, I was very optimistic actually after seeing Phantom Menace. I really liked it a lot. And I guess it was only really upon further viewings that I thought that they really missed an opportunity to delete Jar Jar Binks very early in that movie, and they could have just taken it whenever they wanted. They can still do it. They can go back and cut him, and we never know.
But
we'll know the difference.
But if you get rid of Jar Jar, then you don't have an empire.
All you have to do is replace Jar Jar Binks with any nameless.
Oh, okay. So you definitely have a vendetta.
I do. I think
vendetta?
I do not like that.
That's
character.
a harsh word, a vendetta.
I do. I have a gun vendetta, which is now the name of our Star Wars band, Gun Vendetta.
That sounds pretty. That sounds like a nice Star Wars death metal band.
We'll just scream. That's what the Emperor listens to when he's in his shuttle on the way to Project Necromancer.
What does he listen to? Like Johnny Cash, like Ring of Fire, or what?
It's actually opera. Isn't that weird? He's just like Hitler. He loves opera. Hitler loved the opera, ladies and gentlemen. Wagner, huge Wagner fan.
No kidding. He certainly wouldn't be listening to like Vivaldi or
it's nothing highfalutin. It's going to be lots of bass. It's going to be bass and horns. Basically, it's going to be John Williams, probably.
I was going to say,
he's probably listening to John Williams and Rachmaninoff, and all
he's actually listening to the Imperial March. That's what he's listening to.
March, man. He had to be then. What was it? He had to be.
You think it's leitmotif, but it's not. It's just what he actually is hearing as he walks around.
He was a fan of John Philip Sousa. He loved marching music. John Philip Sousa.
Alexa, play me Stars and Stripes Forever.
I could totally see it's like the grand march. He's like in the background, and he was going like this with his lightsaber. Yeah,
my army of clones. Now everybody get down.
Everybody get down.
Yeah.
He started doing moves and stuff. I never seen Palpy move like that.
Man, he's stunting on him. He's stunting on him.
We saw inclinations of his maneuvers with Yoda.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, the guy's pretty agile.
Yeah,
he's pretty agile on the dance floor.
70-year-old president.
He's absorbing the Force. I mean, he's definitely more agile than just sitting in a chair.
With his hood on, right.
I love the fact that we're keeping with the tone as far as the so-called filler episode and everything. It just maintained this tone like throughout. You get the lighter moments with Omega, during the card game and everything. But it still kept with like the darker elements with the portly guy, if we want to call him that. Trying to
Captain. Let's give this guy credit. I mean, he took the spotlight when he walked into the bar.
Yeah.
I mean,
all eyes were on him. All eyes were on him. Yeah.
His name is literally
that
character's name is Captain Man, and he's so big he had two N's on the end of his name.
Captain Man. Okay. And one quick point, completely out of left field. This episode, where did it pick up? Right when episode 3 ended.
Right when episode 3 ended.
So it's a continuation, and I get it. Like filler. Well,
I don't see how this is
a
filler.
Harsh word. No,
I will argue against that. There's extensive, important plot points that are handled here.
Yeah,
sorry, my dog walking over.
And I guess I like filler. I like things that are just. I mean, what does that mean? Filler? Like it means you're.
I guess they could have
delete this episode.
They could have went straight to them going to meet the other members and everything, but they did.
Hunter and Wrecker.
They used the whole episode to give it some breath. They just escaped as if we were watching a movie and we needed time to those down times during watching a film. You got to give a chance to breathe before you get to the next emotional plot point.
So
it's the brake run on a roller coaster is what it is.
Yeah.
Because when Omega jumped the ship, like when she went to hyperspace to escape, she just hit the button. She didn't know where it was going to come out.
Much like Resistance and much like any time these guys kind of hyperspace jump
talk
without
about it
me.
being
You just
insanely
gotta go.
dangerous and stuff, and then they do it like every single time. They're just like, we're jumping from inside the atmosphere. Wait, you can do that? You know what I mean? Like,
and Han did it right when he latched onto the Star Destroyer, and then released when they dumped all the trash.
Right.
He just jumped. He didn't know where he was going. Leia found like this other system. Oh, and then he's like, oh, Lando. And she's like, Lando system? Like, no, Lando's a person. And all of a sudden we have a new adventure. Is that filler? Was that filler in probably the greatest film in movie history?
I think when people and these guys on the internet call them this filler, it's really just the progression of the story, and it's what it is. I'll tell you what it is. It's the side quest thing, right? Like we talk about video games. I think people have gotten an overabundance. Maybe it's from season 2, but it's just this overabundance of like the side quests rather than staying on the main quest, right? And I think it's because of the fact of maybe we've seen things where there's only 12 episodes, 10 episodes. Well, if we have 5 episodes of side quests and we're not staying on the main quest, like even for this, as great as this is, like we talked about the smoking guns, right? We need to know like what happens with Nala Se. That's a big part, I feel like, with this whole cloning thing. There has to be I'm guessing she's going to die. She's not going to make it out of this. So do we have to close the whole arc out of the whole Camino? The Camino arc needs to be closed. We need to understand her motives, what the hell they were really doing, who stole their information, where are these other facilities like these Omega sisters and all these things. There's so much to cloning that I just hope that Nala Se is alive or enough to where Hemlock, or we can get that, because this is the last season. So we have to get the band together. We need to solve some things. But in me personally, what they're doing with Project Necromancer, I need closure for the whole cloning process.
Yeah.
Well, there's
do you think
no way
in there.
Well, there's no way that they're successful with this project.
No,
because it takes them 45 years, and even then, you've got a stunted, marionette Palpatine is all the best you can do. So something has to happen, or there's some sort of hurdle or something.
Yeah, right. There's a Passover between this Hemlock guy to 45 years later. It's Pershing and Grogu, and so yeah, you're right. But the thing is, now we're at this point. So in this 45-year window, what the hell happens? Because they're this far. And then the next iteration of is Pershing, and I'm guessing the iteration after that will be Snoke. So in this 45-year window, how do they get from these whatever abominations to having a being in Grogu who they can house, I'm guessing midichlorians or M-count, to then create this version of Snoke, which would be the closest clone and Palpatine's son at the same time.
So how old is Rey in episode 7, like 15 or something like that?
I would guess she was like late teens, maybe 17-ish.
She's at least 20, 21. I mean,
so she's 15. So Palpatine's son has to be an adult when she's born. And I know that they can age the clones faster, but I would imagine they wouldn't do that to Palpatine's clone, because the idea is to live forever, right? And never die. So you want to slow it down. So probably we're looking at somewhere in the first 10 years of the Empire is when her dad is born. So that should happen pretty soon, and it should be a failure for some reason. And if they showed that that dude failed because of something that Bad Batch did, it could really, it could really be very interesting to show that that's why there's a Rey, and also why Rey was able to inherit midichlorian stuff when the clone didn't get any. So it'd be interesting to see that story too. It'd fit here, but I don't know. Like, there's so many things they can do with these guys. Like, now we actually can see them do the stuff we want to see them do for a little while, at least a couple episodes, and then they can go after Hemlock to rescue Nala Se, and then she sacrifices herself to blow up the place. I don't know.
It's going to be a sacrifice to keep Omega alive. That's what it's going to be. I mean, that's like her daughter in a sense.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
the whole
going to
thing.
be
Yeah.
that's the noble thing is her, whether it be a gunshot, like maybe Omega's not. She's going to take the sacrificial and or crash a ship or something. I think like Hitch is right. I think she's going to
Oh,
blow up that
so
facility
you
and
think
be in there.
Omega's not going to make it out of this season?
No, I'm thinking she is, but Nala-Se is going to do the ultimate sacrifice to make sure Omega stays
No.
alive.
Okay.
So whether it be her sacrificing herself and like doing the whole red button, blow up this facility, because like I said, there's a 45-year window, and the cloning, as we've seen 45 years later, is now done on ships. They don't have a planet in a facility. They're doing this in space now, so it's more like a mobile lab. So
I think Hemlock needs her, Nala-Se, because she's the orchestrator of the whole thing. She understands the cloning process. I don't think Hemlock gets it. I
think he's becoming, like we talk about, like in the newer stuff. I think he's becoming so stubborn and so cocky in his thought process that I think he's willing to sacrifice her, and then that's going to be his downfall, right?
Right,
That's
because now nothing's going to get done because we still don't know what's in the vault.
No,
we still don't know what's in there for sure.
And when that fails, I'm sure Sheev will be super forgiving and accommodating. Make sure, because you've got to risk things to win. You can't. You have to be able to fail sometimes. It's just how it is.
So do you think Sheev's appearance was like a smoking gun?
Well, I mean, think about it. We know that. I mean, there's 3 eras of Star Wars that are like happening right now, right? We got this era, which is like right after Order 66, so the early Empire era. We have the Mandalorian era, which is something like 6 years after the Battle of Yavin. It's like 25 years ish in the future from where we are right now. And then you have the sequel stuff, which is like what 25 or 30 years.
Yeah, it's about 40. It's 445. Yeah, so
yeah, so another 20 to 25 years. So we know where the cloning programs are in all 3 of those. Here we have Mount Tantus, and it's all it looks pretty close. Like it looks like they're gonna have this done in like definitely close for Palpatine. Like this is his big project, and he can live forever. He seems to be pretty content here. We know that after the Empire's broken at Jakku, and after the New Republic takes over, they're running away. So they're doing this stuff in ships. They're doing it wherever they can, and we know that eventually he's doing this in the unknown regions, hidden away from everybody. And we know that's where all this is happening. So why do they suffer the enormous setback? There has to be some sort of enormous setback because he doesn't start building the Death Star right away. Why? There's a reason he doesn't start building the Death Star right away. He has a different plan at first. Otherwise, he would have started building the Death Star immediately, right? Because he has the plans. We know he has the plans because they were developed on Geonosis. So he's got them. So he could start right now. But we know they're still building the Death Star later. We know they're still building the Death Star in 20 years. And they're still be doing basic components of the Death Star.
So
and we know
maybe that's the thing he's trying to get approved. I mean, you have to get that approved. If you're going to run a galactic empire, you can't just, as much as we think Palpatine has the ability to do this, you just can't do what you want. You have to follow there are guidelines. And I think there's a lot of the old Republic still in the new Empire. You have to follow a chain of command. You can't just do what you want. So I think he's getting the backing to build the Death Star. I think that's his end game.
Yeah.
And he has to get the approval of, there's still a Senate. There's still a imperial democracy that is in control of the Empire. And Palpatine's back there with his, he's doing what he does, but he still has to get the approval of a board, right?
I don't think really it's necessarily the approval, but I think you guys are onto something. I think the biggest thing, and it's even came to fruition in my rewatch of Rogue One, like this is the infancy of the Empire, right? So what does he have to do? He needs to go out, and it's just like if we were to start a franchise, or in DP maybe would think about, taking his comic to live screen. What would you want to do if you were creating a franchise? Go out and recruit the best of the best. So maybe it be Galen Erso or he needs to go out and he needs to identify, okay, that guy's the greatest, like, blacksmith of the the galaxy. This guy's he needs, and he doesn't have this network, right? Because
he needs an Imperial Manhattan project.
Yes.
It's just he needs to do the Oppenheimer.
He needs to have a medical advisor. He needs to have a military advisor. He needs to get his people in place before he sort of puts the plan into action.
Right.
I mean, as much as we all love Emperor Palpatine, as we know him, he just didn't like wake up one day and have all the power. Jar Jar Binks had to give him all the power. Initially,
Queen Amidala let him, bro. That's the dumbest ass move she ever
tag
did.
out to my idiot cousin. Let him run the vote.
So,
gracious.
But that's
Billy
why
Carter
that's why he just couldn't start building the Death Star, because he needed to back it up with something.
He needed all the best pieces in place and everything. I mean, that's the sign of a effective leader, is when they can see, when they can play chess. They can see all the moves ahead of time, and by the time they get, they're hoping by the time they get to a certain point, then all the pieces will be in place for them to take over or rule or whatever plot they're trying to implement.
And what would be the biggest important thing is you have to define the why. Why am I building this? Because now you have your people. Now you have to tell them why, so they buy into it. You can't just start doing it, because then no one will support you.
Right. You have to have a damn good reason too.
Yeah.
My thing is
reason to build a star killer.
Well, my thing is, Andor showed us that this is a lift for the Empire. They had to crack down on people to generate a slave labor. Like we saw how that like labor pipeline works and why it's necessary. So when you have to do something like that to build something, it's a stress. It's a stretch for you to do that. You are, you're taking away from other parts of your economy, which is these people who you're locking up have an economic utility where they pay taxes and do a job or whatever and live, in a caravan or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? They're not worthless, and you're reducing them to directed slave labor at, absurdly harsh conditions where they're not doing their best work. So that's a huge lift, because it requires you to do all this stuff to get them there and keep them there and guard. All that stuff has to be set up, right? So that makes me think, like, why did they decide to suddenly change everything around? Now all the sentences are 10 times longer and dump all the resources in at that time, which is like 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, I think is about when that happens in Andor. And my thinking is that it has to relate to some sort of change with this project that we know takes another 45 years. It's almost like they're doing a Frankenstein thing here, and they think they figured it out. It's like, if we shoot like 50 billion volts of electricity through this body, it'll come back alive, right? But then they're like, oh man, it's way more complicated than that. It's going to take us, I mean, how long has it been, right? Like 300, 400, 500 years to figure that out. So why would Palpatine switch, like change all of a sudden and be like, oh crap, I won't be unkillable before. It's like he realizes he won't be unkillable before the revolt would kill him, right? Like that's it.
Yeah. The way that makes this all make sense, that payoff would be the same sad ending to this season would be this is the only facility, right? Because they left that old facility, and this is the new one. So literally, you're right. Nalase would have to kill Hemlock and literally blow up that whole facility, and that's everything they know about cloning. So then, in this 45 years until you find the Pershings or whatever doctors, like it's kind of like shit, because he has to build this Death Star to protect, right? That's the mothership, that's home base. So they build this Death Star in order to maintain their kind of dominance in space, but also maybe they started the cloning in space there, right? But yeah, as they're this planet, I think this planet blows up, and that sets them back 40 plus years.
So do you think there was cloning going on the Death Star?
I think they attempted to.
That's
I'm sure
a
there was
great
a lot
question.
there.
Well, here's the thing: the Emperor does the Emperor have a throne room and everything? Like, just everything the Empire, like, it has a throne room ready for him if he just shows up on like every single Star Destroyer somewhere.
So
probably not, right?
He could have cloning processes going on everywhere, even on Hoth. I mean, he could have had. Well, Hoth was.
Well, we get to decide what we want as far as these things, but I think if you assume the second Death Star is an exact copy of the first Death Star, the implication of a throne tower on the second Death Star is a throne tower somewhere on the first Death Star. So it's also very possible that when Luke Skywalker blew the Death Star up, he didn't just blow up the planet nuking device. He blew up all the clones too, because why would you not put all of your eggs in that basket? That's a really secure basket.
Is that that's a protected basket, right? Yeah. Ooh.
That could be that would be an interesting. See, if I was writing this, I'd be like, that's an interesting twist that changes like what Luke actually did, right? He flipped it, and instead of blowing up the Death Star, which everybody thought, yay, now that Death Star can't blow us all up, he blew up all the clones, and now the Emperor is just like, I'm in double Dutch now. That stupid Vader can kill me or something like that. Yep. I think he would say double Dutch. By the way, that would be the Palpatine.
Yeah, that would be
curse.
That would
double
be
Dutch.
He would say double Dutch because I think he could jump rope using like the dark side of the Force.
You failed to complete your construction project. You find yourself in double Dutch.
So then Luke Skywalker really saved the galaxy if all this shit is still happening?
No, of course not. That's
nobody
ever saves anything.
No, he never saves anything because it's Anakin and Kenobi are the actual ones that are supposed to save the galaxy, and that didn't work out. We saw what happened there.
Sometimes Luke Messiah comes a generation too early. We know that.
Galaxy.
Yeah.
Right. There's
Technically,
Luke
Anakin is
to bring balance back, and that didn't work.
Well, look, we're old enough to know, like now, that Anakin should not have been in charge when like during the Clone Wars when he was 19 and 22. It definitely should have been later when he was like 40, which is about when he kills Palpatine. That's about when he like murders the Emperor, and you would assume he would take over if he didn't die from all that electricity, which did not bring him back to life. Frankenstein.
No, it didn't, did it? Mm. But I like that reference because some of the old, I diverge, but some of the old like monster stories that we grew up with, Dracula, Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Invisible Man, I mean, what were they? They were like human. They got changed. They had Force abilities. I mean, there was these stories go, and this is what George grew up with. George grew up with these stories, just as you mentioned, Steel City. He grew up with Frankenstein. He grew up with Dracula. He grew up with these supernatural, above humanity beings with the Force, and that's where all this comes from.
Well, there's so much romantic literature in science fiction. I mean, Frankenstein itself is science fiction. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is science. Everything Jules Verne wrote, all that stuff is science fiction.
That's the Sith. Is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's the Sith. That's the dark and the light. It's all in one person, and you choose to go one way or the other, right? We all choose. Every time we're having a conversation with somebody, we choose to be a jerk or we choose to be nice.
And you choose to be nice?
Yeah. Well, either you are or you not. So you got like this group of people. You got this certain percentage of people, all the billions of people in the world. You got this certain percentage of people who are like the purest of good. The purest of good. They're good, they just the purest. But that's only a small percentage. And on the other
we don't
side,
have to pay them back. If we borrow money from them, we don't have to pay them back.
Yeah. And then on the other side, you got like the purists of evil or bad or whatever, but it's only a small percentage. Everything else that's in the middle is like a gray area. Some is more evil, some is yes.
The bell curve.
Yes. And it goes and flows and everything. And the rules of society keep people in check. So nobody gets too high, nobody gets too low or whatever, you know. And it just is what it is. Those purities on the other end pull, you know, try to break the rules apart. And it's, I guess, a decision on, I guess, humanity if they succeed or not, you know. But like I said, I mean, it's just a matter of the yin and the yin and yang, and where all the tropes and stuff, everything come from.
So there's a lot of meat on the bone here in season 3. I felt like season 2 was
we talked about it. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't want to knock it too hard, because there were some really good episodes in season 2, but it didn't feel like we were. It was like, you know, it was a rib, right? There was some good meat there, but there was some bone. There was some bone on that thing.
Filler.
Yeah, right. And we're getting a lot of content here. We're getting a lot of story.
These first 4 were, I mean, if they said, "Hey, we have 2 hours to tell this story," and it's almost like a movie. It was like a movie, right? So good. I really just am so impressed with these 4.
We've been waiting to see for a while. So
yeah. And if anyone out there hasn't watched this, you need to do it now.
Yeah, Bad Batch is good.
Disney Plus.
If you didn't watch Bad Batch, but you listened to 56 plus minutes of review content about it from us, then you need to watch. You desperately need to watch it.
Desperately.
Please. Spoiler alert. But no, I'm saying spoiler alert as far as if you didn't watch it. I'm sorry. You can listen.
Yeah,
to it.
You're in trouble at this point in our show.
It's too late. It's just too late.
It's just we just ruined it. So
you're too far. You're too far.
We're past the post on that, guys.
Yeah.
Should I put spoiler alert on this? I don't know.
Nah,
not worrying about
it.
You're
tuning into us. We give you fair warning as far as what the show, what the week's going to be about. Just like next week, spoiler alert, episode 5.
We're going to tell you everything, everything that happened.
We'll be telling you what happened on episode 5. So please do your best to watch it and interact with us when we're live. But one final quick things I wanted to talk about and touch on just real quick was like, I don't know if this is a Disney influence or not, but like, you know, the world building aspect, like whether it's Andor, Rogue One, like the craziest thing. And it's like Disney is really like, because I go to Disney World so much yearly, as you guys know, I'm like, bro, literally Galaxy's Edge, or what do we call that? Black Spire Outpost. Every time I watch a show now, it literally like my mind just jumps to Disney and like there, like even in this Bad Batch, like Olga's Cantina, right? I mean, I'm just sitting there like, wow, this is a cantina. Like, now you can physically go there and be
and he finally drank the Kool-Aid.
Exactly, right? I mean, like,
I thought I was the only one.
No,
he's talking about how great the parks are. I gave this episode a 10 out of 10. You're contagious.
No,
Ken.
I'm a fan.
Oh, yeah, he's in it.
I'm a fan of Galaxy. I'm a Disney junkie. He's in that. Come on now.
The mouse has got him.
Well, you got me and they went up. What are they now a piece? 1,700, I believe. So trust me,
ouchie.
1,700 a piece for an annual pass. So and there's no financing out of state.
He just got you, buddy.
But yeah, but no, I really appreciate that. Like, every time I watch that, I think about like when you're there and if you've only been there once in your life, like to be there and then watch this stuff.
You can't put a price, teammates. You can't put a price on experience and on memory.
Not that.
So at the end of the day,
your credit card.
You can't take any of it with you and everything. So
I will say that's a very succinct, like what you've just described, T. Mitch, is a very succinct ad for the parks. It's that it makes me feel like the physical presence of Star Wars as if it is a deity.
I've heard that from many people, not just Star Wars.
It's crazy.
It makes people feel, and I guess that's what Disney, Disney is there to do.
Yep. They got it down.
I like going to Kennywood. It feels like I'm in the movie Adventureland, so that's pretty great.
He said I like going to Kennywood because that's as far as I can go.
They don't call me Six Flags Hitch.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I mean, but shit, based on the price of a non-discounted ticket, bro, you're damn near halfway to Disney. Everybody talks about the little. They're like $85 for normal admission, but they always discount it. But like their admission price is like $85.
All right, this is some real inside
you know,
Pittsburgh stuff. So a lot of you guys aren't going to care.
I hate it.
Right.
A lot of you guys aren't going to care about this, but if you go a lot to the to Kennywood and Idlewild, which I'm gonna have a 3-year-old this summer, I'll be doing that. The actual like season passes aren't a terrible deal as long as you go a bunch and you get the refillable cup. It's not so bad, but you got to commit. You got to say, look, Sundays when we're like sitting around.
You mean this? This is refillable.
Star Wars.
That's that. So.
Yeah, it's a Western. I guess it's a Western PA thing. I don't know. Kennywood's actually like world renowned. So
it's the roller coasters. It's the roller coasters, and you know they really are excellent roller coasters. I think the Thunderbolt and the Jackrabbit are my personal favorites. Although the Racer is really good. That's why I think.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I like Noah's Ark. That's about my speed.
That's a fun. I mean, that's a classic and fun time. Still fun. They've changed it like 4 or 5 times. The ending in my lifetime, anyway.
Noah's Ark.
I've liked them all. Yeah.
Oh.
It's had a different ending, you know.
Right.
They had like the flood thing where you were in a submarine for a while, and they were like, "That's dumb." They got rid of that.
Yeah. $230 a year for an annual pass, and you get to go to the other parks. That's a good value. So
I don't know, man. If you have young kids and you're in Western PA, you're not doing yourself a justice if you're not spending some time at Idlewild Park.
It's a fun drive up Ligonier too, right? It's not a bad drive.
Here's the other thing, and I'm again a nad for these guys.
Mitch, by the way, have you got off the exit and went to that little that little park with the super fast go-karts? As soon as you get off the exit, I love going there. They have like the version of the go-karts, and they have the normal go-karts, like the adult. I'm doing that. You never seen it when you get off?
No, I haven't, because we go.
Like Bob's like.
Now this is going to be driving directions in Pittsburgh, so we're all going to get real into this.
We usually take 30
go to the tree, make a right. You know,
when I used to go, it was right off the turnpike. You're probably going through Monroeville and the other way, but when I went, like, because I'm like, you know, in the Canonsburg area, so like I would go down 70 and hop on the turnpike and get off at Ligonier that way, and there's like a cool like little like golf or I forget what it's called, but it's like a little park.
The best thing about Idlewild is you can go back and forth to your car. That is literally the best thing about it. It's easy to do, and you can, you know, have a bag, swap it out, outfits for the kids, lots of beer, whatever you want to put in your car, totally fine. So
lots of beer for the kids.
I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. Well, lots of beer for the kids. I probably would frown on that. I don't want to put words in their mouth. But I've seen many a beer at Idlewild Park. So once again, sorry to our usual audience.
It's fun, right? Hey, this is what being a nerd is about, right? Our passions in the Star Wars, and it all ties back into Star Wars, right? I'm waiting for the first our Star Wars roller coasters. You know, we haven't seen one of those in the episode yet, but I'm sure there'll be a theme park. You know, because like I said, Disney loves to throw these cantinas in that look exactly like their establishment in Florida. The way it's
maybe they filmed it there, maybe they'll start filming stuff there, and you'll just be like, you know what I mean? Like, didn't they do that at Universal Studios? Like they used the lot or something.
Well, the back lot. So the one in LA, that's an actual active movie slot. Like whatever the backstage, the back lot tour, those lots they go in around, that's like that's active movie lots that they go in and film in those buildings. So yeah. But yeah, as we digress, guys, I know we've kind of bored you for the last 7 minutes, but hey, it's what nerds are about, and it's a little peek into some of our other interests in our other channels, the Nerd Comic Psycho Flick Show, where we talk about all things, not necessarily Marvel, but all thing nerddom, right? You know, whether if you have a passion for music or I have a passion for theme parks and whatnot. You know, it's a great advert for you guys to go on our page and check it out, right? We have some great content on there. We've done some pretty epic reviews on stuff. I mean, geez. I think the craziest one is probably our review of Doctor Strange. I mean, bro, we literally destroyed that movie. Like, oh, bro, that was that's when back in the day when Tom Cruise is Iron Man. I mean, the leaks for that shit was crazy. Then you seen it and you're like, yo, what?
Well, this something,
right? But
I'm just glad that even in the multiverse, it's only Patrick Stewart playing Charles Xavier. Like they're all Patrick Stewart. I'm just so happy that that's how they did it.
You have to, right? And like I said, and what's that? Next week we'll be seeing him again in X-Men 97, which we'll start to cover on our other channel as well. So
love it.
Yeah, great time to be a nerd for you guys. But yeah, guys, it's been fun this week. Like I said, spoiler alert for those who maybe just be initially listening or watching us. We will be tackling episode 5 next week, as we do every week. So please spend your Wednesday evening as maybe me and Ken do, or
Thursday,
early hours, or Thursday, whenever. But more than likely we would have seen it a couple times and spoiled it for each other. So, and until next week, guys, this is the way.
This is the way.